Hoochie-daddy shorts. Hoochie-daddy shorts. Hoochie-daddy, apparently. Word up, people. Word up. How are you? Good. Excellent. Excellent. I'm going to assume that everyone is good because I want to get right into this. So it is March the 4th, 2023. Earlier this week, I received my manuscript back from my editor for Book 3, The Singing Bones. So what I want to talk about today is the process of processing a manuscript that has been edited by my editor, and how the conflicts inherent in that. All right. But first, quick update, because I haven't been recording these as often as I used to. So, update, I have began marketing with Mike. Mike is currently running tests, target audience tests, and I don't know. That's why I had to hire a marketer, because I don't know what I'm talking about. So Mike is dealing with that, and so that's very exciting to finally have some ads running on Facebook and Instagram, I believe, and then we're moving toward Google and eventually Amazon and blobbity blobbity blobbity. I can't believe I just said blobbity blobbity blobbity. So that's good. Next week, I am sending new parts of the anthology that I wrote based on my editor's comments from the first edit that she did. I'm sending new material that I wrote to her to get that edited next week. And then, so I'm still on target for having that finalized and proofed. I've got a contract with my editor to proof that, I believe, in a month, April 1st. So that book is on task. I am in the process of re-recording and editing the audiobook for the Scarecrow Hunters. My hope... No. Yes, no. My hope was to get that finished by April 1st. That's probably not going to happen, let's be honest. And I've run into some snags with recording the audiobook. At some point in the future, perhaps I will make a video that's all about recording audiobooks, but I'd really rather know how to do it first. There is a surprising amount of content on YouTube for people who record audiobooks, either self-published authors who record their own audiobooks like me, or narrators who record audiobooks for other people. And there's lots of tutorials on how to best do that for any capacity, even to get those jobs to record books for other other authors. So excellent information I'm learning, and what I'm learning is that I should have done an extensive amount of research before starting, which I did not do, because I have a video background, and recording audio for video is a part of what I do, but different animal, different type of audio capture. So those audiobooks for books 1 and 2 may not happen on schedule, because it's really vital that I don't press myself to meet deadlines that are going to stress me out and take out the joy of writing. As I have mentioned in past videos, I was working on writing book 4, and I wrote the first fourth of the first draft of that manuscript, and am still super excited about where that manuscript is so far, where my writing is, because again, the difference between it and Bones was a pre-existing manuscript that I wrote, which prompted me to get the first book edited, and then rewrote the first book into two completely unique, or two separate novels. And so then going back to the third manuscript and trying to get it up to the same level as the first two at that point was a real challenge. And it wasn't creating fresh words on the page. It was polishing and correcting and reshaping and blah, blah, blah. And with book 4, it's all new generation, which is so fun. But I finished the first fourth of that, and I knew that I was going to have to focus on finishing up the anthology and in particular editing Bones when I got that manuscript back from my editor. So I didn't want to start the second section of that book until I was ready to complete it. So I've the anthology and Bones and getting them finished up, and which means I will perhaps continue to record audiobooks and edit those because I can do those in smaller sections, meaning in the mornings, whereas editing Bones may require a bit more commitment than just an hour that I can give it in the morning. So the audiobook work is really conducive for those mornings. So I may continue working on that, but I still may push that back at some point. So there's that. Now, let's get into Bones. Here's the thing, and I've had this conversation with you guys before. Millions of subscribers. So I made a conscious decision back in 2021, I suppose, that I was not going to write books for mass market appeal. I was going to write books for a very specific type of reader who is similar to me in that they want a bit more of a literary approach to their fantasy. And this is what I mean by literary approach. If you read classic literary works from authors such as Ernest Hemingway, let's say, his stories are very, very character driven. You know, they're not necessarily plot driven. In fact, even stories like Of Mice and Men, where there's a lot of very clear action points, not so much with something like The Sun Also Rises. Or my God, read Faulkner, not As I Lay Dying, the other one, the one that most people know, which was one of the hardest books I read in my 20s. It's very character-driven, character-oriented, not plot-oriented. Now, in fantasy, obviously, there has to be a focus on plot, and we want something exciting. But I made a choice to write more character-driven books. That's what I mean by literary. So forgive me if I'm using the wrong term there. But so my editor has basically a formula that she uses to grade or judge a manuscript by. There are these beats in the story that should happen at certain points. The inciting incident gets you to the midpoint where there's a false win or a false loss, which prompts a response, and all of these things until the climax of the story. It's very neat, it's very tidy, and there's infinite, apparently not really infinite. There's tons of best-selling successful novels on the market, fantasy, horror, whatever, romance, all of those things that fit that mold very, very well and sell tons of books. That's not what I'm writing. If I had to choose between selling more books and making more money and being able to write the books that I want to write, I would prefer to write the books I want to write. Maybe one day I will venture into the fray of writing to market, because that is a legitimate choice to make, and I don't despise or judge people who do that. No, I get it, And that makes a lot of sense. And I've actually considered doing that in other genres, and even under a pseudonym, a pen name, because I want my author name, Eric Shane Love, to be very much associated with a particular type of style, which is a bit more literary, perhaps, and character-driven than books that are written for mass market appeal. I'm probably not doing justice to any of that, and I'm probably making mass market appeal sound like a negative thing, and it's really not. I'm not saying that. It's just a different way of writing. It's a different approach, and it's not my approach. And that is a choice that I made back with Scarecrow and Shadow in 2021 or 2020 when I was rewriting them. So here's the thing. I got my manuscript back, and let me just say, to begin with, that I got this manuscript back months late. So I'm not going to get into all of those delays. I've talked about them in past videos. But suffice it to say, as my father would say, or as my pastor growing up used to say. Anyway, suffice it to say, based on my last expectation when I got the book edited, I received it 2 months late. We're just going to simplify it and say that I received it 2 months late. So now instead of having 6 months time to edit it, I have 4. Now, the truth is I was actually not planning on even starting to edit this manuscript until April. So I was really only giving myself 3 months because I felt pretty confident in where the manuscript was. My editor does not share my confidence, to put it mildly. She had some great glowing things to say about like showing versus telling and point of view, and just the way the book is written and some of the language and word choices and just the style of writing that I write in. But she struggled with my characters' motivations, their GMCs, their goals, motivations, and conflicts, which again is very formulaic, but also I get it. But she went as far as to say that because the characters' goals, motivations, and conflicts aren't clearly defined, the book has no plot, which is something I take a bit of umbrage against, because a plot is just a sequence of events that happens as a story unfolds. So literally, it has a plot, and you can plot out the course of the story. The challenge isn't that the story doesn't have a plot. The challenge is that she, as an independent reader and not someone who's invested in the story, doesn't understand the characters well enough to get why the things are happening the way they're happening. Now, if I back up for a bit and I remind you that I just said I am writing a more character-oriented, character-driven type of fantasy, the fact that my characters' goals, motivations, and conflicts aren't clear enough for my editor, who has read both of the books in the series and the anthology that precedes this book, if she struggles to identify those, that is a problem that I have to take seriously. And of course I would. I don't hire an editor to ignore what she's saying. I don't hire an editor with the assumption that I know more than she does or that I'm smarter, right? I don't hire a professional and then ignore what she has to say. However, I hire an editor with the understanding that she is going to edit my book with the purpose of getting it so that it will appeal to this mass audience. So let's say that this is mass market appeal, and this is where my book exists in its current state as far as who would find this story appealing. Well, I don't want to go here to the mass market, but I also don't want to necessarily alienate readers outside of this small circle. So taking what she's saying and interpreting it through my own formula of writing, I hope to expand the circle somewhere between the two. So not mass market appeal, not so specific that it's alienating to your average reader, but somewhere in between, where hopefully people from the mass market can still read it and enjoy it, and maybe they have questions, maybe they feel a little less satisfied than they do with other pop fiction. But hopefully over time, if those people will stick with it, they will begin to see that a lot of their answers will be answered as the story progresses, and they'll learn my writing style, and they'll love it. You know, that's the goal. That's the goal. So basically, the challenge that I'm faced with is, how do you gauge what to take seriously and what to disregard? And I don't even mean disregard. That's not the right word, because I don't disregard anything that she says. She sees an issue with the plot, let's say. The character's GMCs, we are on the same page. And she pretty much clearly identified each of my character's GMCs, but always with a question mark. Like, is this what they are? So yes, she sees them. They're just not clear enough. They need to be clarified. That's easy to do. And I was aware of that. Even in my last edit, my beta reader and I asked her specifically, where do you see the struggle in this book? Like, what are the weaknesses? Like, what is general, not specific scenes necessarily, but what is what's making it weak? Because there were issues. And she said basically the same thing. She didn't use the term GMCs, but basically that's what she said. She needed clarity on the progression of my character's development over the course of the book, like what was motivating them and why they did what they did, and how that evolved. So basically my editor is saying the same thing, which means that she and Anya and I were on the right track, and we definitely made strides. Lord, Prissa, it may have literally, she said the book fried her brain. It would definitely have fried her brain if she had read the version before the last version. So that's good. I get that, and already I have like 3 pages of notes on clarifications there. There are a couple of things in the flow of the story and pacing that she mentioned that I'm going to pay attention to, and she did talk about restructuring and reordering some of the events to facilitate the progression of the story, the plot, basically. And I see value in those. So there's still, a lot that I'm gleaning from it. But there are other things that she would say, like, this event doesn't need to happen until the end of the book, because that's when that type of event would happen according to her formula. No, I'm not rewriting or restructuring my book so that it fits that formula, because I'm not writing books based on that formula. That is a choice that I made before book 1, and I'm sticking to that. So what I have to do instead is, when she is pointing out these issues, I am looking at those issues as symptoms of a bigger issue, of a bigger problem. And basically what I find is that when I am writing this character-driven story, and maybe that's what I need to call it instead of literary, because maybe literary sounds hoity-toity and bougie. I believe that when I bring clarity to my characters' goals, motivations, and conflicts, and to the characterization, the character development as the story progresses, because the character, like she said at one point, Gray, my main character, shouldn't be the same at the end of the novel as she is in the beginning of the novel. And she's not. But her changes happen so gradually and subtly that they're clearly vague to my reader, or in this case, my editor. So I need to clarify that. So that's basically where I'm coming from. Is I think that if I am seeing these issues that she has, and if the issue is strictly that it doesn't follow the timeline that her formula prescribes, that isn't unimportant to me. Like, legitimately, that does not matter to me. I don't care. Because, no. However, if it's a deeper issue than it just doesn't fit the formula, if there is a weakness or a problem, then that is what I'm going to look at as a symptom of a larger issue. But my diagnosis may very well be different from her diagnosis. Does that make sense? So, I'm sorry? It does make sense? Okay, good. Oh, I'm so cute. Aren't I? Or am I not? I don't know. I mean, I'm wearing a tank top today. I keep lifting my arms, and I don't shave my armpits, by the way. I know that I'll have to edit this out later. So that's all the news that is news from all across the nation. I am trying to, my brain is in overdrive right now, and you may be wondering, if your brain is in overdrive, it's probably lunchtime, lunchish. It's probably like 10:30, 11:30, somewhere around there on Saturday, March 4th. And you may be asking me, well, if you're working hard on reshaping this manuscript, what are you doing making a video? Because this is part of my process. I also cleaned my office, and because I need there's this detachment that I have to do. I work in batches. I work on something, so I did all my GMCs. I clarified all of my GMCs in general terms, and then I had to step away and reset my brain, cleanse my mental palate, so to speak, so that when I come back, then I can do the next thing, which is look at the flow of the story and the points that she feels like things perhaps need to happen in a different order that makes sense to me, and then process those in relation to the clarified GMCs. And then I may even have to take a break and reformat my brain, reframe, refresh. I forget the word I used a minute ago. And then come back to it and actually work through the outline of the book and say, all right, so these are how these changes are going to have to be implemented from chapter to chapter. It's really complicated. But my goal is, by the end of this weekend, to have that firmly established so that I can begin editing the actual manuscript itself. One sad thing is she completely deleted the prologue, and her reasoning behind it makes 100% sense. Like, makes absolute sense. And now I'm struck with like, oh, phooey. Like, I loved it so much, and it's not the kind of thing that I can repurpose, because by the time we get to book 4, that it's years in the past, and holy shit. You just witnessed. I just saw it. I just saw what to do. Ooh. Ooh. Good. Listen, I love you people. I'm assuming I love you. We've never actually met, or if we have, I'm not aware, because I don't know who's watching it, but I think I love you. I love I have issues with humanity. Boy, do I. I think that humankind in the culture that we've established is a bit suspect, and we set ourselves up and our neighbors up for failure. But that's neither here nor there. I do value humanity, and you are human. I do prefer dogs, but anyway, just scratch all that. Peace, homeboys and homegirls. I hope you are living your best life. I hope that, unlike me, you're not being crushed by inflation whatever you want to be, making good progress and thrilled with your work. If you're trying to sell books, I hope that you're selling books. Let me know how that feels, because I don't know yet. Anyway, but I wish you all the best. I send you peace and good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. I'm laughing because that's in my DNA. It's not even Christmas, but it's not Halloween either, but it, you know. Anyway, big love. You can see. Can you see? I've got hair on my body. I'm just not that super hairy. But I had a woman in my yoga class at the gym. The gym shut down during the pandemic. It's since opened back up, but I already had a membership at another gym. But a lady in my yoga class once said, "Oh my gosh, do you shave your armpits?" No, what you think? I'm not I don't shave my face. Well, I'm not shaving. Anyway.